listening to Opening the Harp Chakra, the podcast, bringing you beautiful, healing, magical harp music and talking with the artists that create it. I'm your host, Jay Michaels. Our guest today is a modern folk musician and songwriter. We met a few years ago at the Maryland Renaissance Festival here in the States. She was playing with the Celtic band Painted Trillium. She also tours as a solo artist, has several CDs under her belt, and an upcoming album called Realm of Enchantment. Very happy to have with me today Kristin Rebecca. Hi, Kristin. How are you?
I'm doing well. Hi, Jay. How are you doing? Thanks for having me on.
So glad to have you. Yeah, I've always admired your harp playing and your wonderful singing voice as well. So nice to have you here.
Oh, well, thank you. I always enjoyed listening to your harp playing as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So let's start with the harp. How did it all begin for you with your journey into playing the harp?
So it's a really random story.
Mm-hmm.
I had taken up the guitar first, and I was playing actually at that time in a worship band, and my parents had taken up the guitar and my mom had taken up hammered dulcimer, and they had started forming their own Celtic band. And I wasn't a part of that at the time, but I was sort of getting intrigued into looking at playing another instrument. And one day we were visiting my relatives in Minnesota, and they have a big music store there called Growth Music, and they actually were selling Celtic harps. And I just sort of looked at the instrument sitting there, and I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know what a Celtic harp looked like at that stage. And I walked over and just plucked a string, turned around, looked at my mom and said, "I want to play that." And that's how it started.
So did you take lessons? Did you self-teach or a combination of the...
I worked with several private instructors as well as going to workshops, and also did a bit of self-teaching as well.
Well, let's listen to some of your music from your album, Where Fairies Dwell. This is The Field Mouse's Ball. Can you tell us the story behind this song?
Yeah, it was when I was working on my album, Where Fairies Dwell, like you said, and I was sort of looking around for songs I thought would fit the theme. And I came across this one, and I just thought it was really cute because it was about, animals going out and having like a nice gathering party together, and I thought it fit the theme well. The field mouse gave a birthday ball and asked her neighbors one and all. She held it in a splendid hole, kindly lent by Mr. Mole. There was no end to nuts and roots, berries red and candy fruits. Juicy leaves were on to sup, and dewdrops in an acorn cup. Said Mr. Hare unto his wife, "I've never yet in all my life received a letter small and pink. What is it now, who do you think?" Says Mrs. Hare, "It comes to call us both unto Miss Mouse's ball. Lift up your coat and your tail so brown, and I will wear my evening gown." Frog was splashing in the pond, of which she was extremely fond. When she heard this joyful news, she soon hopped up and changed her shoes. That night they danced on the sandy floor. They never had such a night before. Not one of them had a growl or a grouse. They thanked them all for the use of his house. Field mouse gave a birthday ball and asked her neighbors one and all. She held it in a splendid hole, kindly lent by Mr. Mole. There was no end to nuts and roots, berries red and candy fruits. Juicy leaves were on to sup, and dewdrops in an acorn cup.
So we just heard The Field Mouse's Ball from the album Where Fairies Dwell. It's Kristin Rebecca. So Kristin, how do the fairies influence your music?
So in the case of the Where Fairies Dwell, it's really the only area, and I guess also Realm of Enchantment, are the only areas where fantasy really influences me. I mean,
Mhm.
I am a big fan of fantasy. I have been for years. And I thought, it would be fun one day to put together an album based upon fairy tunes and songs, because I was running across a lot of them as I was looking at traditional music.
Right.
And then I ended up taking a trip to Ireland several years ago. And while we were there, we ended up listening to a storyteller who told us folklore about fairies in the area. And I was just like, now I have to create an album about this. And I started putting together all these pieces I'd collected over the years about fairies and arranging the tunes and the songs. And I added in several originals as well. And it basically became a concept album that I thought would be a lot of fun, since it seems that a lot of other people are also into fairies.
Yeah, a lot of people are. And I think many people see the harp as a very fey, magical instrument. What are your thoughts on that?
I think so. I think the harp really is a captivating instrument in its sound, and people just kind of stop when a harp's being played and listen.
Right. Yeah, it does have that way of just getting your attention, not in a loud, hit you over the head way, but in a kind of gentle tug at your soul kind of way, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So this next song that we want to feature, you wrote this one. It's from your Tales, Trails, Truth CD. It's called Sail Away. Can you tell us a little bit more about this piece?
Yeah. So my album Tales, Trials, and Truths, I started writing, it's all original. Except, well, actually, there's 2 covers on there, but everything else is original. And this particular song was inspired by a trip I took to Savannah, Georgia, I believe. And while we were there, my parents and I, we went on a historic tour where they put us on a bus and they were sort of charting us around town, and they were pointing out where historic events had happened, like someone died over here or something happened over there. And we were passing these big historic homes. And our tour guide casually pointed up to the balconies on the top floor and said, "Those are called widows' walks," but didn't actually elaborate. And
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't know what that meant, because I'm from the suburbs in Maryland, and we don't have really tall houses like that. And we don't, at least no one calls the balconies widows' walks. And so I thought maybe, a bunch of women were upset about their marriages and were pushing their husbands off the side.
Oh,
I didn't know. So
yeah.
I pulled her over afterwards and said, "Could you explain?" And she said, "Oh, well, this was a real area for men who were going on ships. And the women would stand on these balconies and wait for them to come home, because they could see the horizon and see the ships coming over the horizon. And a lot of times they wouldn't come back. So they got to be called widows' walks." And it started making me think about a story of, what if, there was a woman and a man who were in a relationship, and the guy went off to sea, but right before he did, they got into a fight and it wasn't resolved. And so now she's waiting, hoping he can come back to her and she can apologize for the fight. Watching the ocean
Sail Away, Kristin Rebecca. So we talked about the influence of the fairies and the fae and their influence on your music, but how about the influence of other human musicians?
There's one person I do give a lot of credit to, who was a folk musician, and he also was in the Christian contemporary world back in the day, and his name was Rich Mullins. And I was influenced more by the fact that he used hammered dulcimer in his music, and he also made it very contemporary sounding, so it was ending up on the radio. And I thought, I'd love to do something like that with the harp. You make it contemporary, see if I can't get on the radio, like mainstream radio, with it someday. And he's one of the big influences in that way, but I'd also credit artists like Kaylee Rain, who's a Celtic rock folk group, Lorena McKennett, who I know you've had on this show.
Yes.
she's an influence in that way as well.
To a lot of people, yeah. You have a new CD coming out soon, Realm of Enchantment, and that name itself also sounds very magical. What's the story behind the name, do you think?
So when COVID hit, like a lot of performers, I ended up losing all my performance work. And it was depressing. And so I wanted to escape. And of course, there was nowhere to go because everything was shut down. And so I turned to my generally escape area, which is fantasy. And I started reading folklore, and I started thinking, what if I created my own fairy tales? What if I created my own myths and folklore? And so what I did was I started writing tunes and songs about fantasy themes. And I thought, this actually fits as sort of a sister EP to Where Fairies Dwell, which is kind of how I see it. It's like an extension of that world.
Nice. When do you expect it to be out completely?
This summer, we're actually going to be shooting the cover for it soon. We had to sort of wait till the cicadas died down.
Sure. Yeah, they're a pain. Yeah, when you're trying to do things. There's a piece that you're going to have on the album, and I love this piece. It's a solo harp piece, and I love the title. I know you said it's a working title. I personally vote that you keep it. Cows in a Puddle. What a great name for a tune. What's the story behind this piece of music?
So Cows in a Puddle came about, which actually is actually the only one on there that wasn't built around fantasy, was when my dad travels with me when I tour. And while we drive through tons of land where there's just acres and acres of no buildings, there's really no people. It's just a lot of farmland and also ranch land. And one thing I would notice is a lot of cows. And also in these fields, there seem to be these sort of, I'm guessing, I could be wrong, but guessing man-made lakes, and the cows would just go and stand in them when it was really hot. And so I wanted to create something that was kind of pasture feeling when I wrote this piece.
Mm-hmm.
And I called it Cows in a Puddle because there was at one point like a good maybe 10 cows in one of those tiny lakes.
All right, so that's Cows in a Puddle from the upcoming CD Realm of Enchantment, Kristin Rebecca. And, I think cows can be kind of mysterious, magical creatures. I mean, they say moo, which is essentially ohm spelled backwards. So,
That's true.
right? Okay. So there you go. What are your upcoming plans? You're going to be at the Maryland Renaissance Festival again this coming season?
Yeah. So that they made an announcement on Facebook that is opening. So
Okay.
I'll be there as a soloist, and then I'll be there with the band. I also have some shows coming up. There is one I'm doing in Columbia in August that's to celebrate the healthcare workers during this time. And then there's some others coming through as well, sort of outdoor shows.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, I'm also starting work on a new EP.
Excellent. So at the festival, you'll be playing some solo work and playing with Painted Trillium, which is actually your parents, right, in the band?
Yep. It's me and my parents.
And that's pretty cool. Your mom plays hammered dulcimer, and your dad plays, guitar and mandolin. I think. Am I remembering correct? Am I
Octave
close?
mandolin. Yeah, you were close.
Okay. All right. Yeah. What's that like playing with your parents?
It's a lot of fun, and it helps that we're a very tight-knit family.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun working together and then playing together, and we're very able to bounce ideas off each other when we sort of start working on the pieces and how we want to arrange them. And is this one good with a heavy dulcimer backup, or maybe dad who plays guitar should do the more heavy guitar backup, and maybe mom does sort of like a lighter accompaniment, or maybe I should come in on the harp, and we sort of bounce that around until it feels really perfect for us.
I'd like to feature one more song from the Realm of Enchantment. This one is Siren's Call. Can you introduce this for us?
Yeah, so Siren's Call is actually one of my favorite harp backings I've done for a song. And I did it. It's really based off the myth of the sirens and just my take on it about a sailor who ended up coming across them one stormy night, and he's the only survivor of that wreck. And it's his story about what he experienced during that time. Listen to a tale an old sailor told to me about his ship that wrecked. The only survivor was he. After they left dock, their journey seemed to be cursed. The endless crashing waves, the ship felt like a floating hearse. They heard a song on the wind. Listen to my call. If safety's what you seek, follow my voice to white sandy shores where you can rest in peace. Weary from the storm, they turned and followed her song. A trance was put on them. For this world they weren't meant for long. From the mist came rocks. Their jagged points loomed ahead, too late to turn around. The hull crashed and was turned to shreds. They heard a song on the wind. Listen to my call. If safety's what you seek, follow my voice to white sandy shores where you can rest in peace. Quickly they went down, the waves pulled the men under, all as you can, or the siren will call you too. You'll hear a song on the wind. Listen to my call. If safety's what you seek, follow my voice to white sandy shores where you can rest in peace.
So that is the Realm of Enchantment CD, the tune Siren's Call. That CD will be out later this year from our guest today, Kristin Rebecca. Kristin, thank you so much for being on the podcast and catching up and sharing your beautiful music with us. We appreciate that very much.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great talking to you.
Oh, always, yeah. And we'll catch up in person one of these days sometime in the future. I'm going to include links to your website and your YouTube, etc., on our show notes so people can find you and check out your many albums, watch some of your videos, and hopefully get to see you somewhere in the future and purchase some of your music. So thanks for the good work, and we'll talk to you again sometime.
That'd be great. Thank you.
If you have questions or guest suggestions, please email me at openingtheharpchakra@yahoo.com. We've also included links to PayPal and Venmo if you'd like to make a contribution to support the production of this project. Please subscribe, please share, please tell your friends. In the coming weeks, more beautiful harp music from around the world. I'm Jay Michaels. Thank you so much for being here. Peace. Namaste.